Just stay tuned. I'm going to tell you the full haunted part of my interview with Eric. Hold on to your seats, people.
Hold on to your horses.
On Sunday, September 29th, Sher and I were honored to be part of the second annual MB Podfest. This took place at the Park Theatre. As you've just heard from the history portion that we described, the theatre has been around for quite some time. In fact, with more older locations, they usually do carry a certain air about them. We didn't know if, for fact, the Park Theatre had ever been haunted or not. We're just spitballing, since many of the theatres in the City of Winnipeg are indeed reportedly haunted. We figured that the park wasn't any different. Try as we might, after spending hours and hours on internet deep dives, as well as asking around to some trusted sources, we have never heard one experience or stories of seeing ghosts at the Park Theatre. But at the same time, we never want to assume, because that would just make an ass out of you and me. Get it? We wanted to know if the same applied to the classic and historic Park Theatre. You can't deny that there is a certain special magic about theatres. You can't deny that they bring a different element of joy to life. It's a place where you can go to be entertained, take a moment from your own life, and get away from the everyday, obligation, and the monotony. Watching a movie or even a play back in the day allowed a person to use their imagination, sometimes laugh or cry, made it also possible for that person to have a break and hit the proverbial pause button and mentally escape. So it is easy to understand why spirits would want to gravitate back to a place that brought them joy. If you had been listening to any of our previous episodes up until now, you would know that when a location had been reported as a haunting, it doesn't necessarily mean a person has died at that location. Since we are part of the Manitoba Podcast Fest, which allowed us to be physically in the Park Theatre, it was a best opportunity to be able to go straight to the source and possibly interview the people that work there, as well as the owner. I was fortunate to interview Eric Casselman, who is responsible for the purchase of the Park Theatre and saving it from demolition and its miraculous resurrection into the beautiful and world-renowned award-winning facility it has become known as today. However, to respect Eric's privacy, he had asked for the verbal portion of our interview not to be aired, but did give permission to allow me to retell his story on the events of seeing and feeling apparitions in his building. Keeping in mind, there have not been any further sightings since 2016, once the renovations were complete. From my own days as a child, I attended several movies at the Park Theatre, watching such classics as Smoking the Bandit, Xanadu, and The Naked Bomb, which is a Get Smart reboot. Eric Casselman is always trying to make the building bigger, better, and he would like to see it become a staple and hopefully an institution on the Winnipeg landscape, which is the ultimate goal. He says, "I'll tell you the few experiences that I've had here. When I first bought the building in January of 2005, because we were working on a shoestring budget, I did most of the work and demolition myself. So I used to work full-time, and then I'd come here after I went home for a bit to spend time with my young family. And I'd end up here till about around approximately 8 or 9 p.m. I'd come here to the theater, I'd do the demolition and stuff, and in particular, I would do a lot of the jackhammering. Anytime there had been anything really expensive, if I could do it myself, I would, to try and save money. I was literally working on a shoestring budget. Where we are sitting now used to be the old projection room. This is the upstairs area, which is now my office. It used to be 3-foot thick concrete to meet the code. Because of the way the old celluloid was, like the film celluloid was, it had nitrate and it was very flammable. So I would jackhammer up here and around and try to break up the projection room, which was entirely made of the 3-foot thick cement. Every day around 2 a.m., the power in the building would go out. So at that time, one of these walls was already removed and was built after the fact. So this used to be an open theater concept where the theater started at the lobby, and basically below us under my office is where the chairs, the rows of chairs for the theater, would begin, and it was just a very tiny lobby at that point. So as I would be jackhammering upstairs, I would essentially see all the way to the back of the theater. Because there was nothing at all and it was just like an open space, I would though always feel like something was watching me. And then every day at 2:17 a.m. the power would go off. And I would always try to remember, like, okay, let's try and stop this before this time hits. But then again, I'm trying to do as much as I can as possible. But then when the time would come and the power off, I'd put the jackhammer down and remember my route of where the holes were and the staircase, as the staircase used to be actually on the opposite wall. And so I would come down the staircase and I would just leave. So that was one part. When we first opened up the building and then you would walk into the back, there was a green room area and it was positioned behind the stage and where the black curtain is now. It was way different because I had since renovated it, and because it used to be just this narrow hallway. You would walk in and no matter what kind of mood you were in, even talking to different people, they just felt angry and their whole attitude would change, just negative, miserable. And just being in that area, it would instantly change your whole behavior. Then there were 2 other incidents. This is where I actually saw stuff. I was in here once on Christmas Day and it was either 2010 or 2011. I was doing some renovations where we used to have this silly old park sign up behind what used to be the bar area. It had slants of wood just to break up the sound so there wouldn't be a lots of feedback. And I was tearing it down because we were about to do a new sign design. And I could feel someone watching me. And I would turn around and there was this old lady wearing old clothes in the other side of my bar. She was sitting there just watching me. And I just literally put my hammer down and I walked out. And I left. And one other incident, I was here during the daytime by myself doing work and walking back and forth. And as I came back into the lobby, I could see someone walking down the stairs. And I thought it was just somebody coming to meet me or whatever, because that happened often, or maybe a friend stopping by. But as it came further and further down the stairs, I realized it was the same lady again. And once again, I just stopped what I was doing and I left the building. She was wearing an older style, longer dress, like 1930s, 1940s kind of garb. And she was ethereal, kind of, like you could see right through her. I didn't stay too long to see the details in her face or anything, because once I realized in both instances what it was, I just left because it freaked me out. And that's it. But you know, the negative energy stuff stopped once I did the renovations in the green room. That changed completely. The green room, again, used to be this narrow little dingy hallway, and there used to be this crappy basement below, so I've completely gutted everything out of there and changed it completely, and it actually changed a lot. And I had not had any further experiences. I haven't seen anything or heard anything since we did the last renovations in the lobby, so that was probably about 2015, 2016. Then I was talking with one of Eric's employees. Her name was Court. She had worked there since 2012 and said that she too had felt things as well as heard things, as well as stories from other staff. Once when she was in the basement, she felt something move her hair, kind of like brushing it motion out of her way. And she couldn't go down in the basement for a while after that. Further to this, Eric and I discussed the overall historic area once known as River Park, which was along the Osborne area, and it was about 150 acres in length. It stretched east going along the river from the current-day Elm Park Bridge to the end of Clare Avenue. It was like an amusement park, and it operated between 1891 and 1942. Another piece of lost history that a lot of people don't realize what was actually there at one time in the Osborne area. Among it, it had all these rides, anything for like a carnival, amusement park would have to offer. It even had a massive roller coaster, and it was also anecdotally referred to as the largest roller coaster in North America at the time, and it was called the Deep Dipper. So with the Park Theatre's locations being within this frenzied fairground, it was all considered to be the absolute center of social life in Winnipeg, as families would come down on the electric streetcar for the day at the fair, as well as enjoy the beach area that ran off the Red River, which is now known as Churchill Drive. It was the Grand Beach before there was a Grand Beach. It was a pretty important area for Winnipeg, and it was a happy place for thousands who have long since passed away. Why not want to return to a place that brought such joy and happiness? Because energy always returns. This brought up another fact of curiosity that is possibly not in any history books, with concerns to the 1950s flood and the role the Park Theatre had to play. Eric explained. I'm a skeptic, but I've seen 2 incidences here, and I've seen and as well as I've felt things that make me go, okay. And like in the 1950s, when Winnipeg had the Great Flood, there was this Catholic church up on Morley Avenue. Oh, no, wait. It was on Arnold Avenue. The church flooded out, and they actually stored dead bodies here at the Park Theatre as a result to help out for about 6 months to a year. So the theatre had shut down for that flood period time. So they had dozens of coffins stored right within this building. Wow, what an amazing story, hey?
Very good.
That was so cool. Like, thank you.
No,
Kudos.
that's really creepy, man. Like,
kudos to Eric. Like, and what were we saying? It's all about the renos.
mm-hmm.
Not to say that
Renovations do it all the time, don't they?
all the time.
What the hell is with that?
It's like a trigger for ghosts.
I know.
I don't know.
They don't like people pissing around with their shit.
Don't fuck with my building.
I know.
Get the fuck
Get
out
the
of my
fuck
house.
out of my house. Yeah, exactly. Get the fuck out of my theater.
Get the fuck out of my theater. That's right. Take your shit and get out.
Yeah.
So with saying that, not to say there's been no recent activity. Like, it was all pretty much around the reno time. So there really hasn't been anything since. So
no, don't be afraid to go there.
Don't be afraid.
Awesome,
it's still an awesome place. Go check it out.
Yes.
And again, thank you to Eric and the Park Theatre.
Thanks, Eric.
MB Podfest. For sharing. Because we're all about the sharing. It was such a cool story.
Yeah.
And again, you're listening to Giving Up the Ghost. We're going to put our kitty cats to bed now.
Yeah, I got to put Kitty to sleep. The damn little stinky kitty is biting the shit out of everyone.
Saturday nights may be all right for podcasting, but not for little kitty cats. Not little 4-week-old kitty cats.
Yeah, she ready to go snooze her. Oh, she's limping out.
Oh my god, look at this. Oh my gosh, you're so sweet, I could eat you up.
I know, Give me your little butt. Give me your little butt. You go sleep time. Oh, quit hanging on to Jasmine.
She likes me.
Let go. Let go. Let go.
There you go.
Go in your little cave.
Helpless little kitty cat.
I know. There you go.
So Saturday night is all right for podcasting and babysit kittens.
Yeah, I'll be babysitting. Oh my god, is it like my life?
Little poopy kittens.
Oh, there you go.
It's like babies all over again.
I know. Oh my god, I'm not ready.
And excellent on cue.
Yep.
Oh, I gotta do my refill here.
I gotta go pee pee too.
Yeah, so thanks for joining us again, listening to us. Yay! Golf clap. Golf clap.
Look at that weird bip.
I know, that was the crack.
Oh, the Kraken.
The Kraken.
McCracken came to visit us.
Kraken came to visit us.
And a blip on the screen.
And live every day like it is your last.
But never give up the ghost.
Never give up the ghost. Bye! There goes. Bloop, 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 bloop.